Fourth time is a charm. Okay. I am now going live on Caster, so you guys should be able to press your buttons momentarily. I already see mine. Go live, go live. Okay. All right. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Lexi, are you all set up on your end?
No, but let's just go ahead. It'll stream live on everybody else's.
Okay, your button's not blue.
No, it's just grayed out. It's like a red X basically that shows up.
Oh, man. All right. Well, we'll just share it on your channel as soon as we're done.
Okay.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. We had some technical difficulties a little bit earlier, so we're a few minutes behind. But we're here with Malu Howard. She is a real estate investor and an overall boss. And so we are so grateful that you've come on to chat with us about real estate and investing. So why don't you share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thank you for having me. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
I should say, if not for you, I could not have figured out how to solve this problem. So that was pretty amazing. So kudos.
You call me the IT girl.
The IT boss. I started as an educator, and I was an educator for a long time. I moved down here to Charlotte to actually teach because I met Travis and I was an educator up in the DC area. I met Travis and I moved down here to Charlotte, North Carolina. To work at the CMS schools. I figured out why they were ranked number 49 in the whole country every time consistently. So it was time for me to leave them.
Sure.
And I was planning to go back up when Trav was like, no, just help me, we'll work here. And that's how I got my kind of like taste of real estate. And then I met Aaron and it just kind of snowballed into being a real estate investor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And the other thing about that is, so that started as a small, I started very, very in the smallest possible way. And they kind of saw that, okay, you can transfer your skills that when I worked in schools or, I also did my MBA then. So all those into how I can make it into, something that's useful for real estate. Mm-hmm. Kind of both of them guided me towards it. And here I am.
Wonderful. Well, I think one of the first questions, just to piggyback off of your experience, so I think all of us can relate to this, all of us realtors here. You don't learn a whole lot about investing in real estate school. So can you tell us a little bit about how you were able to bridge that gap? And I know that you had great mentors, but how long did that take you to kind of get to the point where you feel so confident that you are today?
It's a long process.
Yeah.
I did go to, become, as you said, I did go to school to, get my license. But that was just a very tiny part,
Mm-hmm.
It's just probably one grain of sand and literally on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many others. So, I started with basics, very, very, and I failed quite miserably in a lot of stuff, right from driving for hours to door knocking to just writing letters by hand and mailing it and waiting for the phone call to come. So there was a lot of failures that made me just, look back and say, okay, this is not how I should do it.
Right.
This is the next step that I should take. Like I said, not just between Aaron and Travis, I have everybody I look up to as mentors. I attended every RIA meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I attended pretty much, if anybody said there's a meetup group, took full advantage of all of that in the beginning, only because that was a time for me to actually meet people who were either, professionals in this business for a long time or people who were just starting like me but had chosen a different path and to see what kind of different paths there were. That is my biggest, way of learning real estate. Mm-hmm. Is because it's just like any, there are certain things, like if you do accounting, you need to go to school, you need to know the process, you need to know the procedures. Yeah. But if you're going to real estate, it's the opposite. You have to have boots on the ground, kind of,
Absolutely. It's kind of just a piece of paper that you're given, and then you have to learn on your own.
Exactly. And even as realtors, we know that, it does not matter. It is your skills. It is your skills of learning from other people. It is your sales techniques. It is your marketing techniques that is going to take you to the next level. Right. And a lot of failures. And one of the biggest things I would say is that I failed more times than I have actually, performed better. But to just look at the failures and go, this is not the approach to take it. Right. Is the biggest lesson I've learned.
Good. Great.
Well, that's actually an awesome entry to our next question. So as a residential real estate agent, we help people, look for their family home, their forever home, kind of more of that emotional connection with the home. So the investment side of buying and selling is completely a different ballgame. So walk us through what a beginner needs to know about a good long-term rental real estate investment. Like, what are we looking for?
Okay, so the first thing in investments side, purchasing is slightly different than the real estate side. I completely agree. I started by actually, buying houses, but I started again with basics. I used to drive for dollars, look at houses, and then I used to write to them saying, can I do this? But analysis of the house as a real estate renter was the biggest piece I had to learn. I had to kind of break down the numbers to say, okay, if I buy this house, will it meet somebody's criteria for a rental return? And only if it met that, so it's not like if there were 10 houses in the street, I would not target the 10 of them. I would target probably the one of them that would meet the rental criteria, and then target the house. And I would go back to, now the technology is different. And, I will go through that with you guys as to, I used to just target that house and say, okay, if it meets the return, it's the 1% rule. So if a house is worth 50,000 and we have to put another 50,000 of rehab in that, will it rent for $1,000? So it's kind of like the 1% rule was the main criteria that I looked at to buy it. And that was the whole, it is different. It's completely two different mindsets, because you're buying only for a person who wants to invest in rental real estate. So I had to kind of train my brain to thinking, okay, I'm not buying this because somebody is wanting to find a beautiful home for their family, but I'm buying this because somebody wants to invest this money and park their money so it makes great returns and also will appreciate in the future.
Right.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. And
I feel like I'm going off subject here a little bit, but I feel like in today's real estate career that a lot of real estate agents just advertise, oh, I do investment properties, I do residential, I do new construction, I do everything. But to me, it seems like to really offer a benefit to your clients that you should really specialize in investment properties and focus more on that. Like, I don't think I would feel comfortable doing that, at least right now, after 6 years of real estate experience. Like, I think I would rather refer that client to somebody like you. What's your advice? Do you think somebody like me that just has been doing like new construction, do you think that I can branch out and do something like that? Or do you think it's more of a full-time commitment?
This is, it's a great question. And there are two parts to that question as an answer. I would say it's always pick a lane and stay in your lane. The reason that is because you have to become, it's whether you're master of one or you're jack of all trades, right? So it is okay to be jack of all trades. And some people flourish like that. And, but again, I think as my personality, I'd rather pick one and be good at it than to pick 10 different lanes. And, and that's my mentor, Aaron, says all the time. It's just pick your lane, stay in your lane, because I have seen people who have branched out and be successful. It is because the type of personality and, it's this is your full-time life. But I just know my personality, and I know that I have to pick a lane. I know I have to do that, because if I do two things, I know I will fail at both of them because of the fact that you dedicate so much time and energy. You just cannot do kind of just mediocre work, right? You want to put your entire heart and soul into something. And so that's what I would say as a two-part question, is that the personality, who you are, is that, dictates the kind of work that you want to do. But I would always, personally, if I'm going for new construction, I would pick somebody with an experience rather than a person who is, who just advertises as a person who does 10 different jobs, because it's not easy. If you ask me about rental real estate, I have been in here since 2014, so I can answer in and out. And that's the kind of person that I would look for. And so I would want somebody to work with me who's also looking for that kind of, dedication and knowledge. So that's what I would look for. So yes, some people it works, but in my case, I have to stick to my lane.
That's actually a perfect segue. Thank you, Lexi. What are the benefits of working with a realtor for investment properties rather than just myself going out for looking for sale by owners or maybe knocking on doors of rundown properties?
The biggest advantage to that is, as a person, like in my market, there's like the microscopic and the macroscopic version of the market. As an investment person, you have to look at the book. As a realtor, you need to know it in a very microscopic level, because it's somebody's home. It's an emotional buy. As an investor, it's not an emotional buy. You have to go in the macro level to say what about this area is something that is going to appreciate for this person. What about this area is going to bring in the good renters? Is it the new type of companies that are moving in? Is it a new road that's being built? Is it the light rail that's going to come here? What is it? So I would definitely go for somebody for rental properties, or if it is, if I want to buy a spectacular home, I would go with Kat. I wouldn't go with me, because she knows, because that's the class level, So, but in real estate, if you ask me like about our area, we deal with the entire Charlotte metro area. And there are 7 counties. So you asked me about what's going on in 7 counties. What are the latest, companies that are moving in? What are the latest type of transportation that's going in? How are the houses appreciating for rental market? That amount of the price range, if you're looking from 0 to 100, 0 to 200, 0 to 300, what are the types? So that's what I do day in and day out. So the advantage to buying a rental property with a person who has, whether it's me or any other person who's, doing that, has a greater advantage because it's non-emotional purchase.
Great. I love that answer. Great. Thank you.
And I think that just naturally, in working with someone that has their license, you're able to find deals that you otherwise wouldn't have ever had access to. And so I think that that's, another portion of this. Not only, of course, you want to find someone who is qualified and has had some experience with real estate investing, someone like yourself. But also I think that there is a huge benefit to having your license, because you're able to find those deals that are on the market even, which, are few and far between, as we all know, but they're out there.
Yes. It used to be a bigger pool. Yeah. Not anymore. So, right now,
especially in Charlotte.
Definitely not in Charlotte. Yeah. It used to be, I used to have, in the Charlotte market, if I would open my MLS in the morning to do my searches, and, we all have those criteria that we run those searches. I used to have a minimum of 10 that would pop up a day that would fit the rental market. Now, if I get one a month, that I would consider myself hitting the jackpot.
Yeah, no, definitely. And they go so quick now too. Yeah. So you just brought up rental properties, right? And so that's really what you guys specialize in, rather than just quick flips, right? So can you kind of expand on why that is?
Sure. We follow. So Alpine's team, and I'm part of the Alpine umbrella. So everything. So can I describe what Alpine is?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So Aaron Adams started Alpine, and it is primarily focused on investors who want to invest for houses that they get the cash on cash returns, as well as they capture depreciation. It's another way of diversifying your investment. So a lot of people do stocks, a lot of people do Bitcoins, gold. So real estate is something that's it used to be often overlooked. When Aaron started this, not many people thought real estate was a great place to park your money and, your investments would grow. So Aaron started this in Indianapolis, and he partnered up with my husband, Travis, here in Charlotte. And I came as a part of their operations team. So we did that. And so our whole format of the company is to buy the rental properties and to fix up the properties on our own, to rehab them, because 99.9% of the properties that we buy need a lot of rehab. So we fix up the properties, we keep the team in-house, and then we go ahead and lease the properties by ourselves. So we have an in-house leasing team as well. And then the properties are then purchased by investors. And after the property is purchased by investors, we also property manage for them on a longer term. So I started this in 2014 with Alpine, and people who purchased in 2014 still have their management through us. So
awesome.
So we try to keep it under the roof. And Aaron's ideology is to have everything under an umbrella, because we put our own money in to buy the houses. We put our own money into rehab. And then, till it's sold to another investor, we carry it. So we put our name behind it. So that's his vision. So we carry the same thing. We are in 4 different markets right now, which is Indianapolis, Charlotte, Idaho, and Kansas City. And we also used to be in Dallas, and it's super expensive to buy, so he doesn't do there anymore. So we keep everything in house, and it's his name behind it. It's his brand, and we all hold true to every part of his brand. And also, one of the things is that in all 4 markets, and investors come and buy in all 4 markets with us, and it's the same exact CRM, and they're able to get the same exact type of service, same exact amount of price. So we have investors who have one house in every market, but it's the same exact kind of service that they're provided.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
It's really
that's amazing. Kid, come on down to Jacksonville. I'd love to work with you.
Absolutely. We're in Florida market. It is the insurance in Florida that actually and says that all the time. It's purely because cash on cash is a very tricky thing. Every penny affects your return. So it was the insurance that was affecting his return big time. So that's one of the reasons why he couldn't do more Florida.
Okay. I wouldn't have initially thought of that, but I'm learning. Okay, so what resources do you use to stay current? And what resources are you using to research the homes and spill the beans?
Absolutely. Let me start from what I used to do. So you guys can you guys can feel my age when I say that. I used to so Travis, my husband, used to teach real estate as well. He taught the marketing class as to how to market and buy houses. So I learned from him. And when I started with him, he used to pull like a list from CRS data. And then he used to give me like 100 of those lists. And then I used to handwrite letters and actually handwrite the addresses and everything. Wow. This was way before, and actually go physically to the post office to mail with the yellow letters. And so that's how I started. And it has progressed since then, after we did that for a while, then we moved to postcards because they were really more fancy, and people moved from, nobody opened letters, everything is postcard. So, pink during February, because they're, and just different things. So we kind of jazzed it up, and right from there, from postcards, we moved into the next set, which is the biggest way, was like cold calling. So we used to load up the data, and we used to hire people, and they would call, and the minute we would get, and I was one of the callers. And as soon as we got a lead, we were like, okay, are you ready to sell your house? Kind of, very similar. So that, that was only 2 years ago. And now that seems super antiquated right now, the way it is, because right now we do texting. So we literally download the data, or we pull the data, and then we upload it into a texting software. The text people, we target people, and then we kind of acquire properties through texting. That's the latest technology that we use. And our texting returns are about, so if we text 100 people, we get at least 50 responses, which has never happened with any of those. So that is our new method for acquiring properties for investment. And it's something that, really resonates with people. Nobody wants to talk. It's a different culture.
Yeah. So when you were doing letters, do you think it was 1%, 5%?
Absolutely. It was between a 1% and a 5%. So
okay.
If
and
5%
cold
5% was, no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. 5% means the jackpot with letters.
Right.
Cold call was about 20%. We did,
okay.
we thought it was amazing because we jumped, and now, the next wave of technology that we are tapping into is the texting.
Great.
So speaking of marketing strategies, we see those signs everywhere that we buy any house, anywhere, for any.
We buy ugly houses.
Yeah. That is actually trademarked. So you have to,
Oh.
you have to. So we buy ugly house, you have to actually pay them a royalty fees to get, the caveman with the little thing. You have, I mean, we had an opportunity and we chose not to do that because it is pretty pricey. But people call all the time using those.
Really? So it is effective.
It is very, so when we started, again, when I started, I did miss this. I used to actually take those signs and tape it to posts. And I used to have those little things that we could kind of, at the very street corners and everything, you could plant those little signs. We used to get calls all the time,
Really?
Yeah, it used to be super effective. But again, it's very county based. Some counties it's illegal. So you have to always check and see what it is. So because we have got calls and, it's always the first time they warn you. So that's how we know, they're like, hey, you can't put these signs anymore. So we try to respect that as much as possible. Sometimes we try to go, if we have had 4 calls from the same corner, we're like, I don't mind taking the chance. I don't mind sticking those things in. So those kind of ugly houses sign, those kind of random signs, we buy those houses. There are 2 reasons they're really good. One is because it's street traffic, right? You get people to take a look at it. Some people who have stopped might call your number and just, you might get a hit. There are a lot of crazies in there. You have to filter through that. The second part of that is that you meet with a lot of local real estate people just like you because they will call you off of that. So I've made a lot of connections. That
Zach always calls.
Mm-hmm.
When Zach sees a sign, he calls and he just, asks for information and wants to know a little bit about what they do and just has a little phone call conversation when he's driving.
It is a great way to connect.
I've never even thought to call the sign though. I make fun of Zach for doing it. It's smart.
It is. Because you connect with local people and they might have a house, or somebody else might have called them and they might have a property at that very moment. So those big signs that are the big billboard signs are super effective because people do call. I remember actually Travis is with Henry, who's also another investor. They both have worked for about 20 years. They used to do cheesy radio ads. They used to do cheesy TV ads. And
Travis get on the mic and actually do the.
I mean, they both, with kind of, they have good chemistry. So Henry is very Southern, and Travis will try to talk like Southern, and so those cheesy ads, and they used to say they would get about 5 calls a day for people, wanting to sell their houses was the highest thing. So those ugly houses signs, at least for a real estate investor, it's worth its weight in gold.
So they work.
Yes.
Sometimes I
wonder what the psychology is behind that. So if I did have an ugly house that I knew, has deferred maintenance and I know the roof is bad and maybe I don't want to, maybe I think a normal realtor would be not wanting to work with me, I guess. And it's like, oh, I have an ugly house. Maybe it's just a quick sale with these companies. I just wondered the psychology behind that.
100%. You hit the nail right on the head. For people, realtors are still an exclusive group. So, if people are afraid, because I still have houses that I buy, people will be like, I haven't straightened this house that I'm so sorry you're coming in. I'm like, it's okay. I'm here to buy a house like this, so their fear and their feeling of their stigma, not the way, because us as realtors, if you ask me to list any kind of house, I would list it. Right. Because I would probably go tell them like, hey, you know what, it's worth it for you to kind of get one of those boxes, move everything. You would give them the tips. I don't think they're aware of that. I don't think that us as realtors would come in and help them and actually get their house sold. It is their fear. It is their fear of saying, oh my God, I don't know how to break free of this. I'm just in this hot mess and I just want this gone. So it is the urgency as well.
So is there kind of a dark side to this too? Not to be Debbie Downer, but like, it seems like there would be a lot of desperate people that reach out. Like, we can't afford this house. It's falling apart. I can't make the maintenance. What do I do? Will you give me something for it? Do you see a lot of that, especially with COVID?
I see a lot. I've seen a whole lot of that right from the beginning. We've had crazy people who've called and said, just give me $1,000. I'll walk away from the house. I'm like, okay, it doesn't work like that. We have to close to an attorney. Here we are a title state as well. So we have to get title insurance. We have to get that. And I've had people like, I've lost contracts because people think that they're going to get the cash the day they close. It doesn't work that way as well. So agreed. So there are desperate, there are crazy people who just want to throw away their house because it's such a burden on them. But when you think about houses, when you think about any size, small, medium, large, it comes with expenses. Houses have, as glamorous as HGTV makes them seem, houses have a lot of dark side to it. They have taxes that they have to pay. They have probably heavy mortgages they have to take care of. They have all this upkeep. So people underestimate. And some of the houses that are inherited, houses that they would get from their grandma or grandpa or just their dad. So there's so many varieties how they've acquired this property. And to them, it's just a lemon. That's just, I'm going to share a story. And this is probably the funniest story that one of the houses that we got. So it's right down the lane here in Charlotte. And what happened was that I actually got it through a wholesaler here. And the story behind this house is that this guy's mom passed away and he did not want to let go of his mom. So the house was exactly the way it was the day his mom passed away. It's literally like the Psycho movie, but to a different elevated level. So if you walk inside the house, you would see the eggs in the kitchen were exactly the way it was. And everything, his mom had there was no washer dryer connection. His mom had washed the clothes and kind of put a string on the toilet, above the tub to hang everything with it. Everything was as is. So he used to go there pretty much once a week and go sit there and do nothing. So, and then eventually this guy got married and his wife just got fed up. And his wife called us, from the wholesaler. And she said, I just cannot take my husband doing this anymore. This is creepy. I said, it's time to let go. 18 years he held the house like this. And the house just had everything like mold and mildew, but he would just go sit there. We acquired the property and it's a great property that we acquired. But that's how people sell. They have so many stories behind them. And this was a house that the lady would not want to give it to a realtor, because she doesn't want to beautify it before selling it. So an investor would be a better option.
Wow. That's a really clear example of the emotion and the backstory that, their neighbors probably don't even know that story. One day it just was, fixed up and renovated and rented out, and they would have no idea what the story was behind that. Wow.
Almost as if we could do a whole additional series on just stories about people like this.
Yeah. I would invite everybody from our team. I'm not even kidding. Zach can tell you stories from here. And it's just everything. We just make fun. That's how we kind of make our day lighter because of the backstories. But every one of these houses have a story to tell. And that's why, as an investor, we get those houses.
It's kind of cool because you're kind of spiffing up the city one house at a time.
Absolutely. You sound like Travis. Did you talk to my husband?
he's paying her to say that.
Yeah. It is true. It is true. Actually, that goes to to a point of that when we go into a market, one of the biggest things in Alpine that we do is we don't buy in the lower end. We try to buy in blue collar or above. And we try to buy pretty much, and Zach will tell you, we try to buy as many houses as possible in a street because it's forced appreciation of the entire street. So, so if from that level to the city level is what, so when there's a little suburb here in Charlotte called Gastonia. We went into Gastonia about 5 years ago. And when we went into Gastonia, there was not a single person that would go into Gastonia. Today, the houses that I used to buy for $5,000 and $10,000 are worth about $70,000 and $80,000 because there are like 10 people waiting in line. So we try to, and jokingly we say we kind of break our own comms and we kind of make and break our own comms. We try to do that, but it actually helps the city as a whole.
Yeah, that's great. So Malu, tell us why many investors buy homes under an LLC rather than their name.
The best thing for any investor to do is they should actually check out Anderson Consulting, which is a law group, which actually will tell you how to buy these houses anonymously. Yeah. So give me 1 second. Sorry.
And we'll put the Anderson group in our show notes too, so that people know where to find
it. It is in the same Infinity Investing. Okay. One of the biggest things is that we have like a Wyoming corporation that we have formed by when we put these rental houses. So it's completely anonymous. So nobody can find you. The biggest reason is because as an investor, as a landlord, you are going to be a target. You don't want to have it in your name, because if something goes wrong, and I can tell you examples of how many things that can go wrong, anything that can go wrong will go wrong with the house. And tenants are, we call them professional tenants. They are highly professional in knowing how to actually come after you for every penny you have. And there are law firms set up just for this. So having it in your personal name is going to affect your personal assets. And that's not what you want. You want to have it in a separate LLC, and the separate LLC to be a very discreet LLC. And there are different types of LLCs you can form, so nothing comes back to you. And the other thing, and the second part of that, I would say, is that when you own a house as a rental, as any investor, never property manage your own house. Always give it to a property management company, because then they become your fiduciary. So they protect you. So there's another layer of protection other than the LLC that you get.
Makes sense. Love that.
Just wanted to check and see if we had any questions from our audience. Let's see. Hey, Giovanna and Susan. They're all listening, so that's great, but no questions yet. So one of the things that I would love to hear from you, Malu, is if you are a first-time investor and you haven't started yet, and you don't really know where to start, what would be your best advice?
My first thing that I would always say is there are different tiers of investing you can do. I would always say become a wholesaler. A wholesaler in the investing world is just you selling a contract. And you don't have to be in North Carolina. Again, in different states, it's different. So you cannot do the same thing in different states. The laws are different. In North Carolina, you can get a property under contract. And I have tons of people who will drive around just looking for houses. And they will be like, hey, I got this house under contract. I can't close it because I don't have the money, but I would rather, and there's groups that you can join to sell these houses. So somebody would buy the contract and pay you a buying fee. So that would be a great way. The second way, if you have some amount of money and if you are thinking about investing in real estate, a great rental property that fits your needs, as long, even if you have $10,000, there are people who would do owner financing, or you can buy notes in there. It's a deeper topic, and I can go on for hours together about all those topics and how to actually approach them, how to give them a down payment, take over their payments, so you will have a rental property under your belt. So that would be great ways. I would never start pouring money into something because you don't know how it's going to work. So I would start, the number one way I would start is being a wholesaler. That's just selling the contract, because it requires no money. It requires your time, but that equals the money that you can make. Right. And the other way is to look for option contracts or, owner financing deals. So that would be a great another way to start.
Definitely. And I think one time that you mentioned duplexes and how you can live in one side and then flip the other, while you're living, so that you're not paying, so much overhead.
Absolutely. And there are different ways you can do that. And I always say, and Aaron talks about it in his, training. That's his first thing he did. And I know a lot, that's how I got mine too, because mine was a duplex. And when you rehab it, and when I took a regular conventional loan, my loan was worth about $800 and my duplex was bringing in $600. So my whole entire house payment was only $200 in there, which was phenomenal, but it was cash flowing side by side. And I always recommend this to people. If you're buying a duplex, unless and until you're staying on one side, don't do that, because duplexes are the hardest. It has the highest amount of turnover that goes through, because no two people can really share a wall and be happy. But stay on one side and try to rent the other. If you have lots of money, then that's fine. Buy plenty of duplexes. It'll do. If you have turnovers, you can maintain that. But as a new investor, and you're buying a duplex, or you can even think about like a triplex. Like the more you go, and then when you finance it, the amount of mortgage you pay is always going to be covered by other people's rents.
Right.
That's a great way to get into the market.
Yeah, I always thought that's super smart.
Earlier, you touched on the 1% rule, and I'm assuming that was single family homes. Would you say that the duplexes, tris, and quads are also around 1%?
The duplexes and tris, yes, it could be 1% or higher. But the difference between a single family and a duplex is the vacancy rate in a single family home would be around 15%, whereas the vacancy rate at a duplex is usually calculated at 25%. So that is where your number. So even though your rental return is higher, your vacancy rate sometimes would bump it down.
Okay.
Our dad built some rental properties, and it's under an LLC, but he personally meets every single person that is renting. And they've kind of become friends. And I think it's something different because it's just like 3 around town. But he's using that as his retirement to supplement all the investments. And so it worked out really cool. And he's excited now for retirement because there's that constant influx of the rental income. And so, and it gives him something to do, you know, managing all of that. It's really cool. I kind of want to do that too at some point. He was able to pay cash for all those houses though, so that makes a difference.
100%. And you know, when you have a certain quality of tenants, that is 100% the way to go, you know, because that gives you, and again, your dad is in real estate as well. So it gives him the knowledge. And that is his active, and also that's going to be his passive. So that is a world of difference. I know people who are, you know, in the medical field, who are in the engineering field, who try to do that and fail at it miserably because that's not their field. You know, they don't know how to do it. So I would never recommend it for anybody who is not in this field to do that. So, you know, your dad's experience makes it great for him.
Well, shall we wrap up?
Perfect. And any other questions you guys have, just, you know, feel free to, you guys have my stuff. So, you know, I'll be more than happy if anybody has anything too, just feel free. I just love this. So thank you.
I almost feel like we need like 3 more episodes on just this topic.
You're clearly passionate about this and obviously a wealth of knowledge. So just hearing the words passive income excites all of us. So I think we should definitely have you on again, and maybe just like a whole seminar about how to get your passive income like started. As a realtor, currently I'm out of town yet still working. We're at a ski resort, and I would love to have more passive income. So I would love to hear more about that.
Absolutely. You know what? All three of you guys are super young. And one of the things that I would say is that, you know, always be on the lookout for, you know, and I didn't do that. I didn't start it till I was much, much older. You know, my son's 25, so I'm way older than you guys. So I didn't start it till much later, but at your young age, there's, you know, it's never too young to get started. And I'm just going to wrap it up with just one example. We have a realtor in our office, Terrell. He got his house in the MLS, you know, he got a duplex. I mean, and he is putting bare bones minimum. So you guys, when you see something like that, it doesn't matter which area it is. There's never an early time. There's never a bad time to get started on this, no matter how peak the market is. So all 3 of you should focus on that too for yourselves.
We can all go in together.
Yes.
Cousins
Come up
triplets.
with the LLC name.
Absolutely. And I will property manage it for you guys.
Perfect.
We'll pay
It's
you
not in
with
Florida because I hear
Washington
the
wine.
insurance.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Malu. It's
Thank
been
you
a
for having
pleasure.
me. Absolutely.
As
Thank you
always.
guys. And really nice to hang out with all 3 of you.
Yes, we'll
And
see you again
I will watch you
soon.
every week.
Yay.
Yay.
All right,
Thank
bye
you.
everyone.